Hey, it's Red here again, and today I'm going to be reading some r/MaliciousCompliance. So, get ready, and here we go. School? Nah, I think Starbucks instead. So, to set the stage, I graduated high school in 2013, and my senior year was a challenge. My sister passed away, my health took a nosedive thanks to chronic illnesses that were progressively getting worse. I crashed and totaled a car. Not my fault, but not a fun experience nonetheless. I had 2 concussions. You get the idea. The first half of the year, the tardies skyrocketed among the student body. The school changed the student parking areas and basically made it so that students who drove themselves and any students who used the door closest to that parking lot were caught in a huge bottleneck, and any one student goofing off could potentially keep literally hundreds of students from entering the building. It was ridiculous. Additionally, they decreased the in-between class passing period from 7 minutes to 5 minutes. Mind you, if you were to walk from one end of the school to the other when the halls were completely empty, it would take you at least 5 minutes. Add 1,200 other people to the mix, and even 7 minutes was a time crunch. So, tardies increased a lot, and the administration got it in their heads that the best way to remedy this situation is to implement new punishments for being late to class. Prior to this year, after 5 tardies, you had to attend an after-school detention with the teacher of whatever class you had missed. That's it. If you skipped class, unexcused by a parent or doctor 5 times, you received an in-school suspension. And if you missed more than 20 days of a class, excused or not, you had to repeat the class. There were some exceptions to that, but they were basically catastrophic exceptions. The new rules were ridiculous. If you were tardy to a class 3 times, you received a suspension. If you skipped the class altogether, unexcused, you received a suspension. All it took was once. If you received 3 suspensions, you had to retake the class. But if an absence was excused, then there were no consequences. Oh, and they got rid of the 20-day absence, repeat the class rule. So, on to the fun. I was just burnt out by the end of that first semester. I was stressed and upset and dealing with horrible panic attacks after my sister's death. My body constantly hurt thanks to undiagnosed pain conditions, and I couldn't stay awake in class to save my life. I was just over dealing with the bullcrap. I spent the entire first semester running from class to class because my classes were clear across the school from each other. I lived less than 6 miles from the school, but was leaving over an hour before school started because of all the road congestion going on between my house and the school. There was no way out of my subdivision that didn't involve a mile or more of closed lanes. Plus, there was construction on the road leading to the only entrance to the student parking lot. It was BS. I was a bit too tightly wound at the time. I was a straight A student in all the AP classes I could fit on my schedule, and I had never been late to class. So being late to a couple of classes that first semester was extremely upsetting, but I still hadn't even managed to warrant a detention. End of the first semester rolls around and we were given a letter notifying us and our parents to the attendance change. Except they didn't include the change to the 20-day absent repeat rule. It just wasn't there at all. Maybe they were hoping by not including it in the letter, the change would be overlooked. It was not. So, second semester rolls around and my class schedule was changed because of human error, and I get thrown in a weightlifting class that I would not have signed up for if you paid me to. I was pissed. I was tired and in pain, and you'd better believe lifting heavy objects for an hour a day, 4 days a week was not my idea of a good time. The weekly swimming day did stick though. And then more construction showed up on my routes to school. I was late, very late, as in arrived to school midway through second period. So I'm in the office in tears being written up with a suspension thanks to the city-wide road construction, and the attendance secretary and the counsellor who oversaw these matters are showing no mercy or leniency. I'm handed the write-up to sign and a copy of the attendance policy in full. And lo and behold, the change to the 20 absence repeat is on there, as is the word unexcused, as in all Unexcused absences will result in a 1-day suspension. Do you see it? Do you see the loophole? I cackled. I flat out cackled. Pulled out my cell phone and called my mum and said, "Hey, I'll explain later, but I need you to call the school and excuse me from first and second period. Thank you, love you, bye." And before I could even slide my phone back into my pocket, the attendance line rings. To say the secretary and counselor were pissed would be an understatement. But I wasn't done yet. After gleefully shedding the write-up, I asked if this copy of the attendance policy was mine to keep, and proceeded to highlight the word unexcused and the change to the 20-day absence repeat policy. Then I turned to the counselor. "So I want to be sure I understand this correctly. If I show up late 3 times, I get suspended." "Correct." "If I ditch class, I get suspended." "Correct," said as he crossed his arms like he was trying to be extra intimidating. "But if I get my mum to call or write me a note excusing me from class, there are no repercussions." "Correct." You could see him trying to work out if he still had the upper hand. "But good luck getting a parent to agree to that." And it doesn't matter how many days I miss, the 20-day absence repeat rule has been eliminated in full with no replacement. And that's when he understood the loophole I'd found. I kid you not, watching that man crumple as he came to the conclusion that I found a way around the suspensions was the best fall of man I'd ever seen. He uncrossed his arms and seemed to deflate straight onto a chair. "Correct." "Wonderful! Thank you for your time. I've got some time before third period, so I'm going to hit the vending machines. Bye!" And off I went, strolled into third period with pretzels and a Coke, happy as a clam. That night, my mum wrote me out roughly 50 notes that read, "I excuse OP from blank periods. If you have any questions, please give me a call at my work number." Signed, OP's mum. She repeated writing out those notes a month or so later. I skipped everything. Gonna be cutting it close to first period? Skip it. Hit Starbucks instead. I don't want to go to that effing weightlifting class. Don't. Take a 90-minute lunch instead. Overslept? Well, I'll get some breakfast on the way to third period, but then skip that awful weightlifting class and come back for fifth and sixth periods. Need more time to study for a test or finish a project? Skip the morning altogether and only come in for that math test. Go home after second period to get ahead on the project. That weightlifting class? After the first few weeks, I attended the swimming days and the game days, soccer or dodgeball, nothing else. Think about that, 1, maybe 2 days a week, for the whole semester. If I attended 30 classes total, I'd be surprised. And of course, they called my mum to verify the notes, and she flat out told them that she'd supplied me with fill-in-the-blank notes, and she would gladly verify them all as legitimate. The sheer amount of times I hit Starbucks at 9 a.m. on a school day was astounding. And it was done on purpose. I was flaunting that I had skipped classes. Every time I walked into that office with a Starbucks cup and a note, I saw a glimmer of fury in the secretary's eyes. If the counselor was there, he'd lean against the wall and glare, but he couldn't do anything to stop me. Our district had a strict policy change policy, which meant that any changes to things like attendance policies and dress codes had to be implemented at the start of a semester and had to remain in place for the duration of the semester. That counsellor tried to appeal to the school board to change the policy at every single meeting that semester. I attended the first one. One of the school board members lost it laughing at the situation. He asked, "What idiot wrote this policy?" And that counsellor turned Coke can red. They basically told him that he'd made this mess and he could deal with the fallout. They returned to the previous attendance policy the following school year, but as I was a senior, that didn't matter to me. Naturally, I told others of my discovery, and soon enough, everyone was exploiting this loophole. Of course, some parents wouldn't excuse their kids, but enough would. We all showed up on count day though. My grades stayed at their previous level and my mental and physical health improved as I was no longer running myself into the ground. All I know is that without that loophole, I would have run myself into the ground and probably ended up in the hospital. That loophole saved my life. And after all I did was ask my mother to excuse my absences. It's not my fault I was allowed more than 20. You know, it sounds like you had one of the worst years of your life. Hopefully the worst year of your life. I hope you don't have a worse year than that. And this was actually very, very lucky that you could, first of all, they changed it to such a stupid policy and that you figured out how to exploit it. There's nothing worse than a school that just doesn't care. I hope you guys enjoyed that r/malicious compliance story, read by Red, that's me. Please give the video a like and don't forget to subscribe too if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it. Bye!